Hello, and welcome to this new episode of Alive and Teaching. Are we too old to teach? If I'm asking this question, this is because we can hear all around more and more people wondering about the reasons why there is this famous disconnect that we have between us teachers and some of our students. More precisely, I can think of an article that I read recently that was published by the Spanish newspaper La Vanguardia, where you had the dean of a major university that wrote to his students, his first and second year students more precisely, criticizing them. Criticizing them because, according to him, they were or they had a lack of interest towards education or towards the classes that they were taking. He was also criticizing their disengagement as well as their attitude in general. The interesting thing is that students answered him back by writing to him and by telling him the following: you know what? We are not the only ones responsible for this situation. Another example that I would like to point out here, because it has also confirmed me in maybe the need or the importance of talking about this topic, is this example that maybe many or some of you at least have heard about, because this reference that we have as teachers, which is the Chronicle of Higher Education, has been echoing it and dealing with it, I would say, quite deeply or quite extensively. It is this example of a Yale University professor that argued in an article that he published that universities have an aging problem. So what he was putting forward was the fact that professors are too old today, that they only teach, or they mostly teach, what they learned when they were young themselves, plus the fact that all in all this would be hollowing out higher education. So we need to deal with it, but we need to deal with it with data too. And here I would like also to point out the fact that when it comes to such topics and such an issue, there is research. And among the research that I can think of, there is the Polytechnic University of Catalonia in Spain that has developed a tool, or an assessment tool we could say, called PhyTracer. PhyTracer, for those of you listening to us. And PhyTracer started as a way to try and measure the impact of teaching innovations on first-year engineering students. And it has become a reference among the people that are interested into teaching and the impact of technology on teaching, because it also pointed out the fact that students today are definitely disengaging. And this was just only confirming the fact that we have to take into consideration the student's perspective if we really want to be understanding what is ongoing. So this is what we're going to talk about today, not to blame students at all and as general, but much more to try and understand what is it that is going on and how we can try and address this situation pragmatically, realistically, in a constructive way. Let's go. So first of all, I would like to point out the fact that experience is not the problem. But if we cannot find a way to deliver this same experience, it might as well end up not existing anymore. And this is where we would be facing a serious problem. What do I mean by that? I mean, first, that experience is definitely not the enemy of relevance. Experience is the whole point of having a professor in the room, because students do not need a peer. They do not need someone of their age to be telling them things or even teaching them something. No, they need, at the end of the day, someone who has been in a place where they haven't been yet. And this is where we have a fundamental role for the teacher. The experience of the teacher is one of the central components when it comes to justifying education and to justifying teaching and the teaching experience. But then, I also think that experience can only land if it is delivered in a language that students can receive. And this is where we seem to be facing more and more issues. Because I was referring to this research from the Polytechnic University of Catalonia before. It is clear, this research is clear about things. What has been pointed out there is that nearly half of the students say that teachers go too fast and that they use terminology that they cannot follow. So this means that the knowledge is there, but the problem is that the bridge isn't always there. And so this brings us to a third point here, which is that adaptation is everything but about you becoming someone that you are not. Nobody is asking from you to act as if you were another person. That's definitely not the point. That's even missing the point, if we believe so. No, I think that what is important is that we need to find new ways to transmit what we already know, meaning that instead of believing that it would be us going for a concession, no. The fact is that this is more about us trying to identify, even developing the skill that we need in order for us to make this connection with students and to bring them this knowledge and this experience that they need to be brought from us people that have way more experience and I would say a little bit more knowledge than what they have, at least when it comes to the fields that we are teaching them. Then second point, when it comes to the debate about professors being too old, I think that this is asking the wrong question. The real question is when you last changed something about the way you teach. And there is a big nuance, a big difference between the former, which is saying teachers are too old, and the latter, which is wondering about the extent to which teachers adapted to what they need to adapt to. So there was this article that I was referring about that was dealt with by the Chronicle of Higher Education about this university professor that was arguing that professors are too old. And I think that one of the answers that we can bring to him is by telling this professor that this is the wrong diagnosis that you are making, professor. Why? Because the problem isn't age. I think the problem is more when you stagnate. The problem is stagnation rather than age, because if you take the example of a 35-year-old teacher that has not updated his teaching or has not updated his methods in a way that will allow him to connect to his students, well, this 35-year-old, and I could even say this 30-year-old, will sound as disconnected as the 65-year-old that did not even go through the same process of trying to adapt his way of teaching to the students that he has in front. Another point is the fact that if we rely also on the studies that are being made about students and their expectations, the fact is that the students are not even asking for younger professors. No, they're asking rather for dynamic classes. They want more interaction in the classroom. They also want more proximity between the teacher and between them. And we could debate these, or we could try and find ways to allow them to fit within a classroom where we need boundaries between the teachers and the students. But I think that when students tell you we just need more interaction, more dynamism, more connection, what they are saying there is that they don't require youth or to have more youth around at the end of the day. No, what they want to see is willingness in front of them. And then I think that what we are saying here is that what matters is not at all when you were born. I think that this is once again a false debate that we don't have to be so long about, meaning that The last time that you change something about the way you teach is actually the last time that you try to somehow make something born again within your classes. And I think that this is the point that counts definitely. It's not always easy. The world is evolving fast. We have technology that is quite put in the middle, and that makes it more challenging to us. But still, connection is not only about technology. It is also about finding the way that puts us at the center of things, as being less of someone that used to lecture his students and more about someone that tries to find the thing that would transmit the knowledge. So at the end of the day, I would say that the important point here is that students, apart from not needing younger professors, know that they would have knowledge transmitted better to them if they had the professors that understood that their attention has to be earned, that every time that they walk in the classroom, the students find, or I would say feel a bit the mood, feel the way to connect to them. It may be hard for those of us coming from another reality where we are being lectured and when we did not really dare looking even the professor eye to eye, but this is once again the reality that we are facing more and more in universities. And from here, this point of disconnect that we hear about so much. So I think that deep down there is no age gap that prevails there. If there is an age gap, actually this age gap has more to be taken through the method that we are adopting, through our way of approaching our students. As for the rest, students need someone that has experience, that could be 5 years older than them, that could be 50 years older than them, but even that could be their age. Actually, some of us, and I'm including myself within these, started a career with teaching people that were of their age. But the fact is that when you are so young, maybe you are the direct connection towards them. The more you evolve, the more you age, somehow maturing gets you, or must get you, to developing also these tools and these habits, and to finding these methods that will allow students to find the true connection there. Then I would like to add the last thing here, which is that the question is whether we are doing enough to make sure it reaches them is the fundamental one. Meaning that I take my job as being a constant wondering about how I should do so that I keep relevant within my teaching, so that I keep relevant within my environment. And I think that we shouldn't fear the fact of going out our comfort zone. We shouldn't fear the fact of facing the reality, which is that some of us, and I include myself within them, are the age of the parents of some of our teachers, and we must understand this. Why? Because this is how nature and this is how life really evolves. But within this, if we decide that they're young and we don't understand anything and I keep sticking to my methods, okay, if I'm 3 years from retiring, maybe I don't have to care so much about it. But if I have more time than this left, or if I want to make the effort to have the students believing in the fact that knowledge can be transmitted through passion, this is where we have to make an effort. But definitely saying that education is made too much of all teachers, I think, is missing the key debate, or missing the key element that we have at the center of the debate. This was it for today. Thank you so much for listening or watching this video podcast of Alive and Teaching. Please do not forget and follow us. You can do it by subscribing on our YouTube channel, by subscribing to our Spotify channel, and or by also subscribing to our newsletter that you can find directly on the website aliveandteaching.com. Thank you very much. Take good care and see you very soon. Bye bye.